Winter wasn't just early. It was ambushing the Midwest with the kind of fury normally reserved for the dead of January. One moment, highways were flowing with post-haul traffic. The next, they disappeared under a curtain of blinding snow so thick it erased the horizon. Drivers on Interstate 70 went from cruising at highway speed to fighting for control as visibility collapsed to zero tires, lost traction, and ice coated the pavement faster than plow trucks could scrape it away. Within minutes, cars were spinning sideways. Semis were sliding like freight trains on glass. And the nation watched in disbelief as a 45-vehicle pileup unfolded in real time across Indiana's most critical corridor. This wasn't an ordinary winter storm. It was a sprawling multi-state system stretching from Iowa to Michigan, pushing 8+ inches of heavy snow into major city centers, slamming rural towns with white outbursts and triggering thunder's snow. Over Chicago, O'Hare, and Midway, two of America's busiest airports were thrown into chaos as flights were canceled, jets coated in ice, and passengers stranded overnight while descending crews fought to keep just a few runways open across Illinois and Indiana. The sound of the storm became unforgettable. The roar of wind gusts blasting across open interstates, the grind of plow blades scraping pavement, the thud of cars hitting barricades, and the distant rumble of thunder echoing through falling snow. What began as a typical early-season cold front mutated into a travel nightmare stranding families on their way home from the holidays, forcing truckers to abandon their rigs and ditches, and leaving first responders stretched thin as accident after accident rippled across the region. This was the storm that didn't wait for winter. This was the storm that flipped the Midwest inside out and reminded America once again that when snow hits, fast and visibility drops to nothing. Even the strongest roads can fall apart in seconds. The storm didn't just pass through the Midwest, it swallowed it. From the plains of Iowa to the industrial corridors of Illinois, from rural Indiana to the snowball highways of Michigan, the entire region found itself under attack by a sprawling winter system that seemed to grow stronger by the hour. Meteorologists had warned about a potential early-season event, but no model fully captured the scale, intensity, and speed of what unfolded. Heavy snow bands began forming before sunrise, driven by a surge of Arctic air colliding with deep moisture sweeping in from the west. As the front pushed eastward, snow rates spiked 1 to 2 in per hour, quickly overwhelming major roadways and burying neighborhoods under a thick, icy blanket. Chicago experienced the storm's full force burst. The city's skyline vanished behind a wall of swirling snow as gusts blasted across Lake Michigan, slamming the downtown loop with icy crosswinds and sending snow flying sideways along the magnificent mile. The storm didn't discriminate. Suburban streets, rural farm towns, and interstate corridors all disappeared under the same blinding white haze. Plow trucks worked around the clock, but fresh accumulation covered their work almost instantly, turning 4-lane highways into barely visible snow-choked paths. Farther east, Indiana braced itself as radar lit up with dense blue and purple bands stretching from Illinois. These weren't normal snow showers. They were compact, powerful bursts that dropped visibility to near-zero coating pavement with a slick mixture of sleet, ice, slush, and heavy snow. Drivers reported feeling their tires lose grip without warning. Semi-trucks struggled to stay upright as crosswinds pushed them across lanes. Rural roads disappeared under drifts that piled up against fences and tree lines. By midday, the storm had grown so large that weather advisories stretched from Montana to Ohio, covering millions of people under winter storm warnings and travel alerts. Meteorologists tracked moisture plumes feeding directly into the system, describing it as unusually energized for this time of year. And as temperatures plunged into the low 20s, the snow only grew heavier, thicker, and more dangerous, setting the stage for the catastrophic events that would soon unfold on Interstate 70. The heart of the storm's fury revealed itself on Interstate 70, one of the Midwest's most critical east-west corridors. What should have been a routine drive through western Indiana turned into a nightmare that unfolded in slow motion. Then all at once, as whiteout conditions swept across VO County. Drivers barely had time to react before the world ahead of them vanished in a solid sheet of blowing snow. Visibility dropped from a 4 mile to just a few feet in seconds. Headlights became faint glows, taillights disappeared entirely, and with the pavement coated in a deadly mix of slush ice and fresh snow, even tapping the brakes was enough to send vehicles sliding uncontrollably across lanes. It started with a few cars losing traction, spinning sideways, drifting into the median, or sliding toward the shoulder. But then more headlights approached through the blinding curtain of snow. Drivers hit their brakes, but the wheels locked instantly. Tires skated across ice like they were on polished glass. One SUV slammed into the back of a sedan. A pickup truck skidded sideways and clipped a semi. And within minutes, the chain reaction exploded. Vehicle after vehicle plowed into the growing pile until more than 45 cars, trucks, and semis were stacked, twisted, and scattered across the interstate. Traffic cameras captured the chaos in real-time, cars wedged against guardrails, semis jackknifed across both lanes, entire sections of the road buried under accumulated snow. Some vehicles were shoved down grassy embankments, while others teetered on the shoulder, frozen at impossible angles. First responders had to fight through the same whiteout conditions just to reach the scene, navigating slick pavement and wind gusts that pushed snow sideways like smoke from a wildfire. Miraculously, despite the violence of the crash, there were no life-threatening injuries. Around a dozen people suffered minor to moderate injuries, cuts, bruises, whiplash, but local officials credited seatbelts, reduced speeds, and driver cooperation for preventing what could have been a mass casualty disaster. Still, the pileup shut down the westbound lanes for hours. Tow trucks, firefighters, and state police worked through punishing conditions to pull vehicles apart one by one, clearing metal-shattered glass and snow-packed debris from the roadway. The scene became a powerful symbol of how fast winter can overpower everything: traffic visibility, and even experienced drivers when the storm hits with full intensity. Interstate 70 wasn't just closed. It was brought to its knees, frozen under the weight of a storm that refused to let up. While Interstate 70 was collapsing under a wall of whiteout chaos, Chicago, the Midwest's central heartbeat, was being hammered by one of the most disruptive winter events the city had seen this early in the season. What started as steady snowfall quickly escalated into a full-scale atmospheric assault. Thick snow bands swept across the Lake Michigan shoreline, reducing visibility across downtown to a ghostly blur. The iconic skyline faded into the storm as wind gusts blasted the city, blowing snow sideways along Michigan Avenue and swirling around the LRES like icy smoke. By early evening, the storm intensified further, unleashing something Chicagoans rarely witness: thunder snow. Lightning flashed through, the falling snow illuminating the sky in brief haunting bursts as thunder echoed between skyscrapers. In a city used to harsh winters, thunder snow is the unmistakable sign that things have reached another level. And the impact was immediate. Chicago's aviation system, one of the largest in the world, crumbled under the storm's weight. O'Hare International Airport, a critical national hub, saw waves of cancellations ripple through its terminals. Dozens of planes sat frozen on the tarmac wings, coated with thick layers of ice, despite the relentless work of de-icing crews spraying heated glycol into the air. Airlines issued emergency travel waivers, allowing passengers to rebook flights without penalty, as screens filled with red, canceled, and delayed notices. Midway Airport suffered the same fate. Smaller, but equally vital to regional travel, Midway struggled to keep even a single runway open. Snowplows worked non-stop in tight formations, clearing paths that closed again within minutes as snow continued falling at 2 an hour. Travelers were stranded overnight, sleeping on terminal floors wrapped in jackets and blankets, while airport staff handed out water, snacks, and updates that changed by the minute. The chaos didn't stop at Chicago's borders, because O'Hare is a major hub for domestic and international flights. Cancellations in Chicago triggered a nationwide ripple effect. Connecting flights in Denver, Atlanta, Dallas and New York were suddenly grounded. Passengers hundreds of miles away found their trips canceled because their incoming aircraft never departed Chicago. Airlines scrambled to reassign crews as weather delays pushed staffing past federal shift limits. Meanwhile, on the roads surrounding the city, conditions deteriorated just as rapidly. Lakeshore Drive turned slick and treacherous with cars creeping at walking speed. Suburban expressways saw spinouts every few miles. Even Chicago's famously battle-hardened commuters struggled to navigate through white-knuckled stretches where lane markings were completely erased. Chicago didn't just experience a snowstorm, it became the storm's industrial-scale impact zone, where every part of the city's vast transportation network, road, rail, and air was tested and pushed beyond its limits. This was the moment the Midwest realized the storm wasn't weakening, it was growing. As the storm pushed deeper into the Midwest, the region's vast network of highways, normally the backbone of America's holiday travel, collapsed under the sheer weight of snow ice and treacherous visibility. Interstate corridors that stretch for hundreds of miles across Illinois, Indiana, and beyond became gauntlets of danger, where even seasoned drivers found themselves helpless against nature's force. I-7, I-55, I-80, and I-90. Some of the busiest freight and passenger routes in the country turned into slow-motion disaster zones. In Illinois, the snow came down in thick sheets coating the Dan Ryan Eisenhower and Kennedy expressways with slick layers of ice beneath fresh accumulation. Cars struggled to maintain traction even at low speeds. Semi-trucks fishtailed across lanes as crosswinds whipped through open stretches of interstate. Roadside barriers and overpasses became hotspots for collisions as drivers hit patches of black ice they couldn't see until it was too late. State troopers responded to so many spinouts and slide-offs that they warned drivers not to travel unless absolutely necessary. Meanwhile, in Indiana, conditions deteriorated even faster. The storm dumped a hazardous cocktail of sleet, freezing rain, slush, and heavy snow that layered the pavement with unpredictable textures, slick in one moment, mushy the next, and rock-solid ice the moment after. Tires struggled to grip. Anti-lock brakes clicked violently as vehicles fought for stability. Cars slammed into guardrails, pickup trucks slid down embankments, and plow crews working in non-stop rotations were forced to choose between clearing major lanes or responding to vehicles blocking the roadway. Rural counties suffered even more. Long open farm roads became wind tunnels where snow drifted into piles 2 to 3 feet high, swallowing fence lines and creating instant whiteouts that blinded drivers. Emergency responders in smaller towns were overwhelmed by calls ranging from minor slide-offs to multi-car crashes, blocking both directions of traffic. Volunteers with four-wheel drives were called to shuttle stranded residents to safety. Navigation apps offered no refuge either. With so many accidents and closures, rerouting systems sent drivers down secondary roads that were even worse, unplowed, unlit, and coated in untouched layers of ice. Many motorists found themselves trapped behind long lines of hazard lights, waiting for plows and police to inch their way through miles of stalled vehicles. Every hour, travel conditions worsened. Every minute, new accidents were reported, and every mile of highway became another reminder of how vulnerable even America's most engineered roads can be when winter arrives with this level of force. By nightfall, the Midwest wasn't just dealing with a storm, it was facing a complete transportation breakdown, a moment when the road network that keeps America moving simply froze in place. Behind the flashing emergency lights and endless lines of stranded vehicles, the storm's most profound impact was felt on a human level. This wasn't just a travel nightmare. It was a moment when thousands of people across the Midwest realized how quickly a routine drive home could turn into a life-threatening ordeal. Families returning from Thanksgiving celebrations suddenly found themselves trapped on icy highways for hours. Heaters, running low, phones, losing battery, and snow piling against their doors faster than they could clear it. Parents tried to calm frightened children in the back seat while checking weather updates every few minutes, hoping to hear that plows were finally getting closer. Emergency responders reported a constant stream of injury calls, drivers suffering whiplash from unexpected collisions, passengers bruised as cars slid into guardrails, and several motorists needing treatment for early signs of hypothermia after waiting too long in freezing vehicles. Paramedics in Illinois and Indiana worked under brutal conditions, navigating snow-packed roads, dodging oncoming traffic in whiteout conditions, and fighting bitter 20-degree and far wind chills as they moved victims to safety. For many, the fear of being hit by an oncoming vehicle in near-zero visibility was as intense as the storm itself. At the same time, hospitals across the
region began to feel the pressure. In Chicago, ERS saw a jump in injuries, not only from highway crashes, but from slip-and-fall accidents caused by icy sidewalks and parking lots. Nurses described an evening filled with patients suffering from fractures, head injuries, or sprains after losing their footing on refrozen slush. In Indiana, medical centers near the I-70 corridor activated surge protocols as victims from the 45-vehicle pileup arrived in waves, thankfully, with mostly minor injuries, but enough to strain already thin holiday staffing. The emotional toll was just as heavy. Truckers who had been on the road for days broke down after witnessing collisions unfold in front of them. Elderly travelers stranded in airport terminals due to mass flight cancellations struggled through long, exhausting waits as they tried to rebook flights. College students heading back to campus after Thanksgiving weekend slept in their cars wrapped in jackets, hoping temperatures
wouldn't drop further before help arrived. On social media, videos of the blizzard went viral, snow swallowing entire vehicles, thunder snow flashing above Chicago, and lines of semis sitting motionless for miles. For many viewers, the footage felt surreal. For those living through it, it was terrifyingly real. As the storm finally began to weaken, one truth became clear. The Midwest had just endured one of the most disruptive early-season winter events in years. It wasn't just about the inches of snow or the number of crashes. It was about the thousands of personal stories shaped by a storm that struck at the worst possible time, leaving behind a shaken, exhausted region still trying to get home. As the Midwest slowly digs out from this massive winter blast, one lesson stands out. Clearly, storms like this aren't just inconveniences. They're reminders of how quickly life can change when snow, ice, and wind collide at the wrong time. From the thunder snow over Chicago to the 45-car pileup on Interstate 70. From the frozen highways of Indiana to the stranded passengers sleeping on airport floors, this storm didn't just disrupt travel, it tested the resilience of an entire region. But through the chaos, we also saw incredible strength. First responders pushing through whiteout conditions, communities helping stranded drivers, families checking on neighbors, people doing whatever it took to get through a night that felt endless. And now, as the final snowflakes settle, the question remains: is this just the beginning of a harsher winter season? Meteorologists say early season storms are becoming more intense, more unpredictable, and more capable of shutting down entire states in a matter of hours. So, stay prepared, stay alert, and above all, stay safe. Thank you for watching and staying informed with us. If this report helped you, don't forget to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe for more extreme weather coverage. And tell us in the comments, do you think early season winter storms like this are becoming the new normal in America? Or was this just a freak event? Your voice matters, and we read every comment.